It doesn't look like it yet, but just in a day or two, this bare dirt is going to become a green, thriving, healthy lawn. And chances are it'll stay that way for years to come. Not because we have magic sod, and not because we're dumping on more chemical fertilizer, but because after 47 years as a professional landscaper, I can tell you this: most lawns don't fail because of the grass. They fail because the foundation was lacking from the start. Today, I'm walking you through the exact step-by-step process I'm using to help this lawn grow in thick, green, and strong, without brown spots, wasted water, or endless guesswork. To maximize the health of your lawn, all of these tips apply to you. I'm using my lawn as an example, but these are things that come up every day that I see out in the landscape on everybody's lawn. This was a construction site very recently, and it's compacted. I knew we had to till it or rip it. We want to loosen it. We want to make it so that we get a better exchange of air and water. We did that a little bit before we put in the irrigation, and then after we put in the irrigation, where we could wet it and get it nice and moist how we wanted it. And then we ripped it again and tilled it just about as deep as you can go down. We went about 6 inches. With organic gardening, usually tilling isn't recommended, but initially when you have compaction, especially when it's a construction site, you've got a lot of compaction. It's graded properly. You can see it's crowned a little bit in the center so water doesn't settle in any spot, and it drains either to drains or to concrete, which drains out to the front of the house. Because we don't want standing water on this lawn. When it rains, it is heavy soil. We want to get that water off of it. Look at the root, goes all the way down to there. Amazing, and it's very young. The other big benefit is we can deal with the weeds a little bit before we put in the lawn. Now, sod is a good deterrent to weeds because it's got a thick layer of roots and such, but it isn't good to just lay sod on weeds or lay sod on soil full of seeds that are going to germinate, because they will come through. So here we water every day. We're watering a little bit every day, and we're letting the weeds come up, and then we're getting rid of the weeds, and that's going to dramatically diminish our weed pressures. The one that is a problem is nutgrass, so where we see it, we're trying to dig it out and get the nut. This is a young weed, and you could see that nut right at the end. And that's how easy, hard they are to pull, because this thin little thing will break, and then the nut's still there, and then they just come right back. You have to get out the nut if you're gonna hand dig it. A lot of times I do hand dig it in shrub areas, never in lawn, because it's almost impossible. You have to use a chemical if you want to kill it in lawn. It's a fact that most life in a soil is in the top few inches, so we really get our most advantage if we use the things that are encouraging life in the top few inches. The most value-laden way to use our blend is to put it on right before you lay the sod, or if you're seeding, right over the top of seed. And so this is blend, a mixture of optimized, maximized, nourished biosol. I'm putting it everywhere. We're using our blend and our penetrate liquid biotiller to create a soil that has excellent percolations. If we can get water down to deep levels, we can get roots down to deep levels. Once you have identified the kind of soil you're working with and provided it with the proper nutrients and amendments, you need to start thinking about irrigation next. It's important. And to this very day, we see this next part go wrong too many times. One thing I like to do is we did it in advance. You can see just by looking at the soil where's getting more water and where's getting less water, and every few days you can take measures to try to correct it, and you can try to even that watering before you put in the lawn. Looks like we have a drier spot here, so we can try to figure out how to get more water here. Same thing here. It looked like we needed more water right around the sprinkler. That's really a key to a good irrigation system, is water evenly applied. So what we've used is 6-inch pop-ups. You can see they pop up a lot. So we're not going to have any problem spraying out over the lawn, and we're not going to have any problem if we want the sprinkler to be low, because it's on a swing joint. The idea of the swing joint is then it'll move any direction we want, it won't break, and we have control over the height. For the most part, we used just regular nozzles, but then when I saw certain areas were dry near sprinklers, I changed it for nozzles with an undercut. It has the main spot where the water comes out, then it has a smaller spot under it where water comes out to water right around the sprinkler. As you can see, these heads have a ratchet, so you can adjust them exactly the angle that you want. All the major manufacturers make good sprinklers and good nozzles. Rainbird, Toro, Hunter are the three major ones. As we analyze the irrigation system, we want head-to-head coverage, but even with head-to-head coverage, sometimes because of wind, edges of concrete, it's hard. So since I see that I have a little problem with coverage here, I have a little problem with coverage on this edge. So I'm gonna take out the 10-foot nozzle and I'm gonna put a 12-foot nozzle. And that's gonna allow me to get more water on these edges where it appears I need it. And I can see I need it because we're looking, we can see it looks dry over there. We had a dry area here. We put in the undercut, seems to be doing pretty good. And we put a 12 there instead of a 10, seems to have made a difference. We want to emphasize this complete double coverage. All the heads pop up way above the lawn. We've got water, good amount of water right along all the edges, and we have even coverage. As you can see, we have the irrigation planned to a T. So we've eliminated that as a reason that this lawn won't do well. But laying the sod can give you another challenge if you don't know what you're doing. Laying sod is not very technical. It's very, very simple, but it's quite physical, quite a bit of work. So that's what you need to weigh when you figure out if you want to do it yourself. Luis and Juan, the runner, are going to help me. I'll let them do most of the work. So this is latitude 36, deep green color, low growing, tightly knit lawn, but I really liked it for its short dormancy because I'm going to try to keep it green a long time and then get it green early in the spring. Put one right here, and this will allow us to offset it. We don't want the joints to align, so he's gonna offset the joints. The joints are where you do get a little bit of drying, so we don't want that to be all throughout the sod job. We want the joints to be unaligned as much as possible. He puts it into place, snuggles it up as close as he can get. We don't want those joints to have any gaps, and we want to do it quickly. If we do it quickly, there won't be any shrinkage. If we're slow, there'll be shrinkage, and the next day you'll see big gaps in it. And the reason there's big gaps is because it dries out. Juan, the runner, is cutting out all the sprinklers. When we get done, we'll see if he got them all or missed one or two. We measured it at about 720 feet. And so I ordered 770. So I went almost 10% over. You're always, stressing over. You don't want to have just a little too short because it's kind of hard to get it. This comes from about 100 miles away. We want to have plenty, and a little left over is fine. This color, can you see the difference in that color? It's the end of the roll. It's getting kind of a grayish to it. And then, this, which was not the end of the roll, is kind of a lively green. This is a dingy, silvery green. That's starting to dry out right there. The roll might be a little thinner. You don't know. If we don't hurry up and water it, it can easily go from that to, in the next day or two, looking more brown than green. So you can see when we get up against here, we're gonna have to cut it. And it's not coming out exactly square, so the yard's probably a little off. So Juan has a knife, and all the odd shaped little areas, he uses the knife to fill in. And then I go behind him and edge it, hopefully a nice clean edge. So the sprinklers, Juan didn't miss one on this valve. We'll try the other valve, see if he missed one. They're all, you can see they pop up 6 inches, way above the sod. Beautiful, but they're finished below the sod, so we won't hit them when we mow. Okay, you ready to roll? As I said, I don't always use a roller, but on hybrid Bermuda, a lot of times I do because it seems to flatten it out a little bit. On fescue, it doesn't seem to make much difference. Settle everything together, get the joints as tight as possible. As you can see, that roller's been around maybe my whole 47 years in landscaping as a company. The sod is in and Chip's ready to party. But this is where the real important work starts for the next coming weeks. If you skip the next few things because you think you're already done, you'll probably wake up one day soon with unsightly brown spots or a struggling lawn. So we'll get some Penetrate Liquid Biotiller on it soon. That'll help it root faster and spread faster. And I'm going to do that, but because it's hot, it's about 96 today, and we just put it in. We're gonna water it, and I'll spray it like tomorrow or the next day. You can do it anytime. So the most important thing right after putting it in is to keep the sod moist. And so I'm gonna program it for frequent watering during the day, probably 3 or 4 times, but I don't wanna water deeply right now. I wanna water frequently shallow because those roots were just cut off. So for 2 weeks until it roots, we will water differently than we want to transition into eventually. We won't mow it for a while. We'll let it root. We'll let it stabilize the soil because the soil has been tilled and it's kind of loose and it'd be easy to put ruts in it. So we want to let it root and let it become firm and stable to where when it's not real wet, you can run a mower over it and not cause any ruts at all. So my preference on a lawn like this is when I'm preparing it, I use blend and I use Penetrate Liquid Biotiller. Once it's installed, I do my first mowing. Then I switch to Nourish Biosol because that has the macronutrients that you need to keep the lawn and make the lawn as green and dense and healthy as possible, which I'm trying to do right from the start. If I'm able to keep that lawn looking great, I'll probably stick to Nourish Biosol and not use blend on the lawn. If there's a pest or disease issue, I will switch over to blend once or twice during the year, and that has lots more soil builders and it also has more real life in it. Once your lawn has settled in and is growing well, it's time to take out the lawnmower and get to work. Follow these next few tips for long-term care to make sure you don't end up with a burned, brown, unhappy, and weed-infested lawn. So we use the same strategy a year down the road as we use 2 or 3 weeks down the road. As soon as we know it's rooted and we're into a regular watering schedule, that will be our watering schedule for the next year or 2 or 3. And that'll be our same mowing schedule, that'll be our same fertilizing schedule. I like to start mowing as quickly as possible. And then we'll do regular mowing. You know, we'll try to alternate the directions of the mowing and we will pick the right height for hybrid Bermuda. When you start mowing, I much prefer mulching mowing. That's going to continue to feed the soil and feed the lawn, but we need to do that intelligently where we're not cutting, say, half the blade. We want to cut 1/3 or less, actually less I'd prefer. During the growing season, once a week mowing makes the most sense, particularly if you're doing mulching mowing because you don't want to be mulching big amounts of material. You want to be mulching small amounts of material. That's how it works best. Our fertilizing will be very consistent and relatively infrequent. Once we get it established, we can probably do 2 or 3 times a year, depending on what products we're using. I will use Nourish Biosol on turf about 3 times per year. Nourish Biosol is our organic fertilizer and soil builder. With these types of products where we're feeding soil, we'll find we need to fertilize less and less because our soil will be an important part of making a sustainable lawn that we don't have to be constantly feeding. The macronutrients that make lawn look green, like nitrogen, we can create our own if we have healthy soil. What we want to do here is have this lawn be so healthy and so dense, it outcompetes all weeds. It's so healthy it doesn't get any kinds of diseases or pests. And the key to that is feeding the soil and feeding the lawn itself. Our watering will change a little. It'll transition into deeper, less frequent watering. On a flat lawn like we're going to be installing here, we might be able to go to once or twice a week. It's Bermuda. It requires less water than most lawns. And my goal will be, let's see how little I can do and have everything look great. The less water, the less maintenance problems I have in general. So if you aren't in the market to completely redo your lawn, but you still want to make your landscape look infinitely better, click this video on the screen right here, and Chip and I will give you the 11 best upgrades you can make for less than $100.